Hello, my name is Peter Cook. I am an ASL, American Sign Language, storyteller and poet. I am also a professor at Columbia College Chicago, the largest art and media college in the USA. Columbia offers more than 120 different programs of study, with majors ranging from film to dance, theater to visual arts, creative writing, and radio. Columbia also offers a major in American Sign Language English interpretation. At Columbia, we encourage students to make the world their classroom. In addition to their classroom studies, we ask them to engage with the world around them. The Columbia College Critical Encounters Initiative puts important social justice issues in front of Columbia students so that they can evaluate their freedoms and responsibilities in the world as artists and scholars. The topic for this year's discussions is poverty and privilege. The word poverty poses some interesting challenges for users of ASL. The most common idea of poverty has to do with a lack of money, so the sign poor is often used as a common translation for the English word poverty. The problem is that the concept of poverty in English can apply to imbalances of resources other than money, and the sign poor doesn't encompass these other ideas. For example, poverty can be a lack of access to things like fashion. It can also have to do with age, where you live, your religion, or even your language. See what I mean? The idea of poverty isn't adequately expressed through the sign poor, and that's the problem. In ASL, the concepts of poverty and privilege are much more difficult to express concisely than they are in English. For instance, driving is often expressed as being permitted to drive or allowed to drive. The impact of those signs on people is different from understanding that driving is a privilege that some people have access to and others do not. Because of linguistic differences, ASL users are often not equally engaged in these important discussions about social justice. That, in itself, is an example of poverty. New words come into languages through many different avenues. Signs in ASL are no different. Let me share with you my experience with the development of a new sign. In 1989, there was a conference called Deaf Way, which involved deaf artists, scholars, and activists from all over the world. One of the meetings involved a group of international deaf poets from countries like Italy, France, and Sweden, and was facilitated by Clayton Valli, an American deaf poet. Much of the conversation focused on the sign for poetry that was used in each country's sign language. After considering each of the signs, Clayton Valli pointed out that none of the signs really grasped the concept of poetry as it exists in signed languages. The sign for poetry in ASL was based in the root sign for music, but deaf poetry does not use rhyme and rhythm in the same way as poetry in spoken languages. The group began to offer up some ideas for a new sign that would adequately express the concept of signed poetry. After much discussion, we agreed on a sign that uses the root signs for heart and express, meaning the expression of the poet's innermost ideas. And believe it or not, that sign has become accepted all over the world. Through various media, a word needs to only appear in one publication for it to be coined and widely accepted. This project will allow us to do the same for ASL.